A century after the First World War, the Great War, poet Michael Winter concluded that the annihilation of the Newfoundland Regiment on July 1, 1916, the first day of the Battle of the Somme, happened because the general who would have thought differently had not yet been born. He was wrong. The general who thought differently not only had been born, but was also present that day and was already thinking differently. Importantly, every leader, planner, supplier, communicator, and medic between the general and the private was thinking differently by the end of that day. Winter's view is informed not by what happened, but by how his society has chosen to remember what happened. The Great War overwhelmed its contemporaries' understanding. It destroyed empires, birthed nations, and initiated a century of ideological and cultural wars. Even the victors could feel little satisfaction. The cost had been high and could not be easily justified, especially in the English-speaking world. Never before had the British Empire fought a land campaign with a mass army, and never before or since had it fought a land campaign as the primary opponent of a great and competent power, so casualties exceeded comprehension. Even now, it does little good to point out that individual combatants' odds against survival in other wars, including the next one, the Good War, were actuarially no better than in this one. The numbers were greater. More men fought, so more were lost. Too many. It had to be someone's fault, and the obvious candidates were leaders and managers, even though no one has been particularly interested in their story. Post-war narratives generally fall into one of two dominant themes: condemnation or rehabilitation of strategists, and consecration or sanctification of common soldiers. This work seeks to address the narrative gap between these by telling the stories of those who connected these two perspectives, the intervening levels, where operations were directed, and where individuals made decisions and took actions that actually decided the war's outcome. These men and women appear in standard narratives as background characters, middle management, standing about in chateaus or hospitals, leaning over maps in bunkers or airfield huts, or blowing whistles to set events in motion. Yet these actors, most of whom had never been or seriously desired to be soldiers, led, fed, supplied, and managed others while they organized a war greater than any of them could have imagined. They built, almost from scratch, those infrastructures and superstructures of war that have become all too familiar. They created new and impossibly large armies, which evolved, Frankenstein-like, in unexpected